Congress about that. Republican Congressman James Lankford serves on the House Budget Committee, and he joins me now. Sir, have you conceded you're not going to get any spending cuts here? Are you voting for
No.
raising taxes on
No.
people who make more than $250,000 come Monday, whenever it is?
I most certainly have not conceded that. People understand that the sequestration is a product of the debt ceiling deal from last year. We made an agreement between the House and the Senate and the President, all signed off on it, saying we're going to reduce spending $1.2 trillion over the next 10 years. That's $120 billion a year. That is the minimum that has to be cut just to fulfill what we had agreed upon last year. That still has to be done. The real issue here is spending. We're spending $1 trillion more a year than we were just 5 years ago. So you're not going to fix it with a few tax increases. You've got to fix it with actually getting around our spending.
Are you any more optimistic that something's going to happen by Monday, based on what you've heard from the President tonight?
This is a Senate issue. It is only optimistic that McConnell and Reid are sitting down to be able to talk through and to be able to find a proposal. Reid has tried to cram this through the whole time. That he's actually sitting down with McConnell saying, okay, let's try to negotiate something is a good sign to us. We passed all the documents we needed in May and in August for sequestration and tax policy, sent them over months ago to the Senate, and the Senate has never answered. That's been our frustration from the House. This is the way it works. Basic civics. The House passes something, the Senate passes something, we come to a conference agreement to be able to resolve the differences. We passed something 7 months ago, the Senate's never answered. They've got to do this.
Let me be very clear about something. I do not think that this country has a revenue problem. I think this country has a spending problem. But you know perfectly well, for a deal to get done, you guys have to see some kind of changes to entitlement, right? I mean, that's a bare minimum for you to save face and stick to your core principles. And you know how the Democrats are. They want to raise taxes on somebody. So, is there any possibility that either side's going to budge on one of on those two issues?
We'll have to wait and see what happens. I mean, the President, as funny as it sounds, at the end of his press conference came out and said, well, if the Senate can't get this done, let's just do the bare minimum. My plan is what he came out and said. Let's raise taxes on $250,000. That's the bare minimum, my plan, so do that if you can't reach some other agreement. It's absurd on this.
If there
as I
were
mentioned
real
before,
entitlement
we're spending
reform,
$1 trillion more a year.
If there were real entitlement reform, would you be willing to raise taxes on anybody just so the Democrats could save face and say they got a deal?
Well, it would have to be some pretty serious entitlement reform, and the issue is, well, we'll have to wait and see how that comes out. There's a million things that are flying around with that. You've got food stamp. Well, let's take the basics. You've got food stamp issues with a lot of food stamp fraud that's out there. You've got people that aren't certified that are getting food stamps. I don't have any issue with someone who is an actual need that's using it for food and it qualifies for it. I have a real issue when someone doesn't qualify for it and they're getting the food stamp
This is my question I ask every Republican. If the Democrats had an epiphany and said, Representative Ryan is right, we're going to make Medicare a voucher program, would you raise taxes on somebody, anybody?
Well, first I would say it's not a voucher program, it's a premium support program.
But
second is, yeah, I would fix that. I would take it. I would take it. It's not a voucher program. It's a premium support, totally different than a voucher plan.
I know
that's what the Democrat line is, the voucher. But yeah, I'd be willing to be able to look at it and say, okay, how do we resolve this to get the big picture done? But they're not even considering it.
No, I know. Representative, thank you so much. Have a good weekend.
Well, we will be back up in D.C., and hopefully we'll see what the Senate sends back to us.
Yep. All right, thank you. There is some action in Washington tonight.